what's up, YouTube? Thought I would spend a few minutes here going over Big Trouble in Little China, the board game. So this is Big Trouble in Little China, the board game. This is the deluxe edition that I pre-ordered through Everything Epic. Yeah, we're going to go over the game. I did play a full game of this, so I would say this review is really the only caveat I would give is that, yes, I've only played one full experience of the game, but I doubt that my opinion of the game and its components will be any different as I play more of this game. So, spoiler alert, I am planning on playing more of this game, and I really do enjoy it. So the deluxe edition is nice because it comes with this really nice gold foil stamped box here. So let's give this an open and have a look at what's inside, and I'll talk to you a little bit about this game, how it plays, and then we'll go over the stuff you guys want to see, which is the miniatures, right? So first thing you get is you get this double-sided board here, and that's because the game is played in two acts. The first act is basically takes place in Chinatown, and you play as, obviously, the heroes of the movie. So you can play as Jack Burton or Egg Shen or Wang Chi or Gracie Law. You can also play you can also play as Margot or Eddie, and you can play up to 6 players. Most games are 4 players, but there's the director's cut version that plays 6 players. The board is quite big, and you can see it's designed into zones. I'm not going to unfold the board here because it is a big board. So the one side is Chinatown, and in this act, you're really just trying to complete quests in Chinatown. There are main quests, and there are also sub-quests that you're going to try to complete. This is a cooperative game, and you're trying to level up, you're trying to get gear while you're in town, and you're really just, you're gearing up for that main showdown, which is going to take place in Act 2. In Act 2, you would actually flip this board, and it's the board is it's a map of, you know, Egg Shen's Lo Pan's lair. So you have to, in Act 2, you have to collect the keys to open up the main arena to Lo Pan, and the whole point of the game is to try to defeat Lo Pan when Lo Pan is made flesh. So, and there's quite a bit more to it than that. I mean, the way I describe it, it doesn't sound like there's much replay, but let me tell you, there is a lot of option for replay here. So that's a little idea of the board. The board actually it's like almost 3 feet wide. It's like 2 by 3 when it's all folded out, and it's double-sided. Really good quality components. This is the quest book, which is important too, because like I was saying, at the beginning of the game, you're going to set up the quests that are available to your team of characters, and as you go through those quests, there's a lot of narrative in the game and a lot of decisions that you have to make as you're working your way through the quests, and the outcome of the quests actually affect how you're set up and what position you're in the second act. So it's very important to try to complete as many of the main quests as possible, and just be ready for the second act. So what I really like about this is super faithful to the movie. I mean, really faithful to the lore. The storylines are straight out of the movie, but they're fleshed out. They're deeper. There are multiple parts to each of the quests, and the number of quests that are involved and the way in which they're generated gives you a lot of replay. Not just the main quests, but also the side quests. You have a big a rule book here. It's a pretty good rule book. Sometimes I find there might be some things that are not in the rule book, but they're explained on the cards. So be aware of that. Like if you're looking for every single explanation, it might actually be on the card itself. The rule book is about, minus the credits and everything, about 36 pages with the glossary in the back. And it's got some good examples and stuff in it. So yeah, that's the rule book. It's like, as with many games like this, it's good to just play with somebody who has already played before, because that would speed things up. But if you don't have that option, watch some of the playthroughs. I don't know that I actually don't have one I would recommend yet. I haven't seen a playthrough that quite has it all covered yet, right? So then you have a number of dice in this game. There are lots of different kinds of dice, and there's a lot of components to this game. It actually was a little intimidating at first, because you have so many different kinds of dice. You have your regular combat / skill dice. You have the epic versions of those dice. Then you have fate dice, and then finally, the deluxe comes with a 6-demon bag, which is amazing. What's in a 6-demon bag? Wind, fire, all that kind of thing, which is fantastic. But you also have the player dice. So the player dice is basically how you control each character, because each character will have their own, kind of like their own control board, essentially. So here's Jack Burton's board, and when it's Jack's turn, you start off. Everybody starts off with 3 dice, right? And then you roll your 3 dice on your turn, and oh wow, got all spirit there. And you would spend those dice to perform actions. And when you put those dice in a regular square like that, you get to perform the regular version of that action. But you can see the next square over is highlighted. And so when you place a die in a highlighted area and spend it for a highlighted area, you get to perform the epic version of that action. So for example, if you're taking a move, you could, for a regular, you spend this and you would go 2 spaces. But if you already had that there and you spent the next die, you could then take the epic version of a move, which would then be 3 spaces. There's a lot more to activation than that. The fate dice is a really, really neat mechanic, because you roll these fate dice at the beginning of the game. Oh, sorry, it's an epic dice, but you roll 6 of these fate dice at the beginning of the game, and those fate dice you can actually spend when things aren't going well during your turn. They can give you additional bonuses and things like that, but there's a risk of really causing some havoc on yourself and the other members of your team. So there's a little risk reward to be managed there as well. The mechanics of the game at first might seem a little clunky. The first couple of turns it might seem a little odd, and then when you get used to it, you realize that yes, this is a dice rolling game, but you also have some control. You also have some resource management and things that actually, and the wonderful part about that is it's all very, very flavorful. It's all very, very themed with the game. You buy your fate, you roll your fate dice, and then as you spend the dice, you place them in here, and then you roll to see if you're okay or if you're not. So you got that going on. The components are, like I said, they're pretty good. And at first, like I said, it's going to look like there's a lot. Like it does look intimidating at first. There's a lot of things going on. You have your minion cards. You also have you can see there are cards for each of the quests, and you can see, like for example, this is a quest that if you complete, here's how things start. Egg will start in this particular spot, and then there's a quest effect here. If the quest was incomplete, this is what you follow in Act 2. So very cool game. Like I said, it's cooperative. The tension of the game is great. We didn't win our first game. It was difficult, but it never felt out of reach. It never felt like we could not win the game, nor did it feel like, oh, this is just going to be a romp and we're going to walk through and win every single time. Some co-op games feel like that. Other co-op games feel super, super hard. This one, the tension feels actually quite good. Challenge versus your skill. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Since we unbox stuff on this channel. No, we don't. We paint first. We paint and then we ask questions. So here's the set of the painted miniatures here. And for, I'm going to put this as bluntly and as honestly as possible, for board gamers, the quality of the components is fantastic. They do not come painted, okay? They don't come painted. I painted these. If you want to see how I painted them, you can follow me on Twitch at PlayItPainted, and I have a bunch of videos on how I painted these. They're, for you miniature guys like me, they're okay. They're okay. They're serviceable. They're good art and good fluff. But you know, the sculpt, there's some issues with flash. I did add a little texture on these bases just to give them a little bit of flavor. They're not bad. The clarity, the fine clarity of the detail is not bad. Some sculpts are much better than others. For example, the Guardian here is a great sculpt, fantastic sculpt, right? Very faithful to the movie. You know, on the other side of that, I would say probably the most disappointing sculpt in this is Gracie. I just did not, you know, I thought she was just kind of odd. It wasn't a very good sculpt. You can see I have some of her makeup on there. Oh, sorry. But no, you can tell it, like they could have done a much better sculpt of Gracie, in my opinion. Wong is really cool, or Wang, I call him Wong. Wong is pretty cool. His sculpt is quite good. And then Jack, they did a decent job with Jack Burke. Decent job, right? If you want to know the scale of these, they're close to, I would say they're similar to like 32 millimeter, right? So as an example here, I always use, so here's Jack, and then here's Emma Frost from Night Models, and they're about the same. Emma Frost has a tiny little head, but you can see the scale's pretty good there. You know, if you're going to use them for other games, I would say Fistful of Kung Fu is ideal. But what I really like about this board game that's different than, say, Rising Sun is the pieces are, it feels more like a miniatures game than, say, Rising Sun. So you do get good use of the miniatures while you're playing, right? Rising Sun, they're almost just more like pieces. They're great. Rising Sun has better quality miniatures, but they're not quite as functional in the game, if that makes sense. This game, the miniatures are quite functional in the game, but they're not quite, you know, on that CMON level. That said, they're very good sculpts. They're very good. But yeah, are they as good as the CMON? Probably not. But, you know, if you love the movie, they're fantastic. Right? Oh, I'm trying to get it to focus here on Thunder. But yeah, they're pretty good. You got a lot of thugs, like a lot of Lord of Death guys. The guy with the cool glasses. You get this guy, the Chop Suey guy. He's in like so many John Carpenter movies. If you're paying attention to John Carpenter movies, these guys are cool. The Spirit Warriors, really cool sculpt there. So there's good stuff. You know, what are you gonna do? Like, you got a sculpt of Margot. Like, what do you expect? You know, it's just not. but this is more faithful to Margot than the Gracie sculpt. The Gracie Law sculpt is a bit disappointing for me. That said, so some pros to the game. Extremely faithful to the fluff. Quest system is very good. The Fate dice system is extremely good, and super fun. Super fun if you love the movie. Super fun. Like, the more you like the movie, the more you like the game. The negatives, I would say, is the game is quite long. We ran almost like 3.5 hours, and we weren't sitting around paralyzed with decisions. We were actually moving through our turns pretty quickly, but even then, it's quite long because once you get to Act 2, then you have to flip the board over and reset everything. There's still a lot of setup on both sides. That said, definitely worth playing. Like I said, if you are a fan of the movie, which I am, you know, there's a reason why my wife has green eyes, and most of the women I've been with in my life had green eyes. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Once again, highly recommend playing it. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.